Thank you for joining us in lovely Cairns today. Hopefully the sun will come out a bit later on today. But thank you very much for travelling from across Queensland to join us. It's really great to have everyone here in person and a whole bunch of members online as well today. I'd like to start today by acknowledging the traditional owners and the land on which we meet today. I acknowledge their elders past, present and emerging, and pay my respects to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today, either here in the room or virtually online across Queensland. As I said, thank you very much for coming today. This is our small business friendly program, Community of Practice Workshop Day. And tomorrow is our full conference. So hopefully you get a lot out of today. The idea is today is as conversational as we can make it. So we've got some presentations by people relevant to each community practice we're talking about today. Please ask questions throughout the day. As you can see, there are mics on all the tables so that the people joining us online can hear the conversation. But please ask any questions you like throughout the day. Don't have to wait to the end. Probably wait for a pause in the presentations, but please ask questions as they arise. It's a really good chance to have a conversation together about what you're all doing and what we've been doing to support you as well. So please really engage today in that. We've got morning tea, lunch and afternoon tea for those joining us here. Please use those opportunities to network as well. Particularly acknowledge the people that have travelled a long way from across Queensland to be here and to make the effort to be here in person. So particularly Burke Shire Council came a long way. I'm going to single you out. Drove all the way here to be with us today. So yeah, Ballon from way down south in Queensland. So thanks for coming as well. Really important today that we go through our communities of practice. So we've got 4 of those. So productivity, placemaking, insights and streamlining. The idea of those community practices was that we would give you an opportunity as members to kind of dig into things a little bit more. So productivity is the renamed procurement community of practice. In discussing that with people, we talked about the need to actually talk about economic development strategy as much as just procurement itself. So that's one small piece of that pie. So we broaden that community practice to be about productivity more broadly. So today we'll be talking about how we can be more productive as members of the program. So we've got a few councils talking about the Accelerator that we've implemented, which was based on our 5 steps to being more small business friendly. So really encourage those existing members who didn't have that as a requirement of your charter to have a go at that Accelerator. It's really bespoke to the charter. And it'd be really good for you to actually have a crack at that and try and do some more small business specific things amongst your economic development strategies that you might have in place. So productivity this morning, a few of our members talking about their Accelerator process experiences. Then we have placemaking after morning tea. So please join us for that. I'll hang around for that one. So we've got Ipswich City talking about their placemaking programs. And we also have Renew Australia joining us to talk about a program that we've funded for Renew Australia to run for us, which will be open to some of our smaller members to do some self-led Renew programs within your small towns across Queensland. And then we have the Insights Workshop, and we have a gentleman from Trade and Investment Queensland joining us to talk about the broader economic outlook for Queensland, what they're looking at from a trade and investment perspective. So we thought that was really good to talk about how you can engage across Queensland with TIQ and with the outlook for the broader Queensland economy and what they're focusing on, because obviously that's what feeds a lot of your small businesses in and out of your communities. And then lucky last today is Streamlining Workshop, and we've invited Len Kosover. Now, he's a contractor from West Australia who worked with the West Australia Small Business Development Corporation. And Len ran their approvals program for the commissioner over there, which was all about streamlining a lot of the approval processes within government and how you can take a more human-centred design approach to that. So we wanted Len to really dig into that process that he went through. And he's run that recently in Queensland with Townsville City Council. So we'll hear a bit more about their experience tomorrow. But Len is here today to talk about that process he goes through and what he ran in West Australia as well. So some really good opportunities here today to learn. I'll stop talking now. I hope you enjoy the day and don't forget the reception this afternoon as well. That's from 5 to 7 p.m. It's at this venue, and then the conference tomorrow. Okay, so due to the weather, we're going to be in the rooftop bar.
Yeah.
Winning. Excellent. So a little bit of a change there. For those joining us online today, welcome. Hope you get a lot out of today as well. And if you've got any questions online, please just ask via the Q&A section in the Teams meeting. So without any further ado, I'll ask Vicky to come up and kick us off with Noosa's experience with the Accelerator.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Luke. Nice to be in Cairns, and I'm going to introduce Noosa to you, which I'm sure it doesn't need much of an introduction, to be honest. Noosa is a small business community. It's a small coastal town. I'm sure all of you know Noosa. And we are a small business community, most of which have less than 4 employees. And we signed the charter in April 2023, so just over a year ago. When we had a different mayor, we had Mayor Claire Stewart. So we went through the process with our previous councillors. We've had quite a change, actually. And so it was endorsed in April 2023. Now, leading into the endorsement was an important process, as much as getting the endorsement. The endorsement gave us a head of power to lead the change through the organisation, but importantly, leading through the council reporting process was a series of workshops with the various directors, the executive team, the leadership team, and the councillors. And getting that endorsement was really important, as much as getting the council report approved. Luke, there was a discussion at one point, Luke, where we said, do we really need to get this endorsed by council? And he was like, yes. And he was right. The head of power has been really, really helpful for us. So I'm just going to go through a little bit how we went through the Accelerator action plan, who we've engaged to conduct the initial audit, and talk a little bit about our top-down and bottom-up approach. So this is a lovely graphic that comes out of the Accelerator guide. We've loosely used this guide. We've revealed our blind spots, share and engage. We've done a stop, take action and get involved. And I wish it was that easy. I wish it was easy. We just followed that process beautifully. But it's been 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 1 step back, 2 steps forward. It is. We've just gone up and down through this process, and flexibility has been really, really important. So we just to follow that process, we engaged some customer service consultants called Customer Frame, recommended by Luke, Peter and Sue-Ann, and they did the initial diagnostic. So to do a stock take, and they interviewed a couple of key managers and key staff in our organisation, and even though they only interviewed 4 or 5 people, they were spot on with their diagnosis of Noosa Council. And I wish we got a glowing report card. There were some areas of improvement for sure. And largely, interestingly, what we found was the internal customer service. There were some weaknesses in that, which then showed up in the delivering external customer service. So our silos worked against us in delivering some really good customer service. And again, the diagnostic tool was used with our CEO and our leadership team to show what's happening in our organisation. And luckily enough, they were really open to it. So that's been a really important process, to use some evidence to show actually we do need to improve our game a little bit. Some things we do really well, and some things we do need to improve. So it's actually started a really great discussion across our organisation. And importantly, it's kicked off what we're calling the customer experience program. We call it the CX program. We've engaged a process engineer to look at all aspects of customer service. And again, it's not as easy as defining, we have small business customers, and then it's the whole range of customers. And because a small business customer is often just a resident as well. So it's just about overall, once you improve all customer service to small business improves. And she's looked at 4 main themes, which is around process, culture, systems, and training. So whilst we're doing that process from the top down, we're also doing some easy wins at the bottom. So during this process, we're putting in some customer service training. We're talking across the departments, And economic development is also then engaging in some other projects outside of that, kind of easy wins to make sure we're continually engaged with our small business. So we have a business roundtable, which has really been our engagement tool with the small business community. I can't tell you how valuable it's been. It started in COVID. All of our chambers and some of our local industry associations, our local MP is on it and the mayor is on it. And it has been our #1 tool for engaging with our small business. And that's where we get the brutal truth. And it hurts sometimes. But by having that style of communications, it's improved relations remarkably with our small business community. And subsequently, we've developed up, I think, quite good relationships with our chambers. Again, honest. And sometimes that doesn't sound great to us, but it has helped set up some feedback loops about what is working and what is not working. And again, we've got lots of smaller projects like a customer service desk. We're trialling one in the hinterland so people can come and visit in the local library. So there's those projects that are organisational wide, the customer experience ones, which economic development is a part of, but is being led by the customer team. And then there's projects that economic development can actually influence. We're a small team in Noosa Council and we're constantly trying to be heard. So we've just tried to get our voice on certain tables and get the business community engaged with the mayor and the executive team. So it's really interesting introducing a small business friendly charter to a council like Noosa, because we're all known for our environmental credentials. We've been heavily focused on the environment, and our councillors reflect that, as do our employees. And so introducing a small business friendly charter has been really interesting and quite challenging, because at times there's been an either or perspective on business, and economic development's message has always been it's the environment and business. And it's about recognising that they are a key customer, that we engage with them, and we're just constantly improving. And what it's not, and I think our staff, as we've presented this and rolled it out across the organisation, it's not about saying yes to everything small business wants, but it's about doing it quickly if we are going to say no, and doing it respectfully. The long maybe, we laugh about the long maybe, which then turns into a no. If it's going to be no, let's do it. It's not about undermining our values. And I think that's been really important for our organisation to hear, that if small business reflect and they respect our environmental values in Noosa, that's why they're here. They would go somewhere else if they wanted to do something that didn't suit our environmental values. We generally don't find that we attract those sorts of small businesses. So once, again, our staff understood that it's actually about working with business in alignment with our values, we have gotten more buy-in. And again, it's not about compromising on our standards. And no one wants to do that. When we've opened the dialogue with business, we realise that we're actually, all of us are really on the same page, that we all want the same thing for our community. Noosa is really defined by its values, its community values and its environmental values. And so it's been trying to get that ethos through our council to understand it's not either or, but we're all on the same page. So just in the next steps, what we're doing now is ECDEV is participating in the CX program. We're on the steering committee, and again, that's working with IT for systems, it's working with the leadership team for culture. And then we're doing some small workshops, customer service workshops with select staff, kind of champions that will hopefully champion this customer service experience through the organisations. We continue to maintain our small business engagement and work on those small projects in ECDEV. And occasionally we even get a profile where our profile is raising so much that people will send business inquiries to us and we can help concierge. ECDEV has always been a very small voice in our council, so we're trying to kind of make it a bit louder. And Customer Frame, the consultants we got, this is theirs, this is not mean, but being truly customer-led is an all-organisation effort. It requires a strategy, a plan, endorsed by leadership and co-created and adopted by the team. So it is about internal, reducing those internal silos and working with the customer service, with us, our community. Importantly, what I didn't mention before, what the audit found was that the front-facing customer service staff were excellent. They were great. They're trained up. they're not the challenge. It's once that inquiry went one level down into the organisation where it would get blocked, challenged, ignored, that we found where the blockages were. So we actually don't need to do anything with our customer service team. They're amazing. It's understanding that all of us in staff have customers, whether they be internal or whether they be external. So some questions I was asked. I had a couple of questions. Do we know who our customers are? So what we found that dealing our internal staff as customers was as important as our small businesses. And how do we, as a small department, drive internal transformation? And it's really hard. So I was saying to Luke before, I was looking at my presentation going, oh my God, this looks amazing. We're so amazing. And it's entirely not the case. It has been difficult. It's difficult. We've been ignored regularly. We've had a change in CEO. We've had a change in mayor and councillors. So we are constantly facing challenges, but we're finding little shifts, we've sat in front of staff, done presentations and gotten blank looks. Like seriously, some people do not believe they have a customer service job. So we have faced many roadblocks and many challenges, but we're getting there. I do believe that we've made small changes, and the mayor, the mayor is on board, and having the mayor and the executive team join our roundtable has really improved the relations between our small business community and our council. So I think that's any questions. That's kind of it in a nutshell. About every 8 weeks.
Come in and do that internal audit. That comes with pros and cons. In terms of the return on investment of engaging that, would you do that again? Did you just see value?
Without a doubt. And what blew me away about Sue Ellen and Peter was how accurate their assessment of our organisation was on only 4 interviews. That's what is it that obvious that we are that flawed? I highly recommend it. And what was really good is that we had somebody else telling the CEO and the executive team. It wasn't us whinging. It was somebody else, and a really respectful and evidence-based approach, which was really valuable.
You said that you've got a different CEO, different mayor. How are you re-engaging and bringing them more through the process?
Yeah, a really good question. Such a good question, because our previous mayor, Mayor Stewart, was married to a small businessman, and look, in all honesty, she was a much more business-friendly mayor. She always came to our events. She was super supportive. She had great relationships with the state government. So that was really easy. So now we have a mayor, Frank Wilkie, who is from the old school, what they call, but I have to say, I think it's all about relationship. We have a great relationship with the mayor. We meet with him regularly. We also we instantly got set up a roundtable in the first 4 weeks, and had the mayor chair that roundtable, and everyone came along and they wanted to meet Frank. Even though everyone knows Frank, they wanted to see him in his role as mayor. And I think he was, he was quite impressed by the level of engagement. The other thing we did was we invited him to the small business, oh my God, what was it? The Sunshine Coast Business Awards breakfast at the beginning of Small Business Month. He had never come to a business event like that before. And it's impressive, isn't it? I've seen my Sunshine Coast colleagues here. It's a really impressive event. Lots of people turn up. It's got some of the award winners. And Frank was a bit blown away, having never really seen that happen on the Sunshine Coast. Well, his last experience was probably 15 years ago when the awards were a tiny little. So he, even in his speech, he's like, wow, this has come a long way. So we're just trying to open up, and expose him more. But I mean, he doesn't need it. I think he's there. The CEO is a different story. He's an acting CEO. We're now recruiting for our CEO. So again, but we've just tried to filter it up. Plenty of meetings, plenty of honest dialogue, and relationship at the end of the day. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Vicky. And I think just reflecting on your comments there, I think, as you mentioned, those who are going through the Accelerator process and going through the small business friendly charter engagement process with their leadership teams, that head of power is really crucial. So We identified quite early on when we were setting up the program, we didn't have that as one of the steps we kind of encourage people to go through. Some councils were doing it, some councils weren't. We found really early on that putting it through that council process, getting a council resolution before the mayor then signed the actual charter document itself, just really gave the whole program a little bit more weight and gave the economic development team that permission to start a conversation. Encouraging the CEO and the other senior leadership team to get on board. So head of power, absolutely. Engaging the senior leadership team is really important. A lot of the time we'll come through town, Dom and I, or Dom and one of the team, and we'll have dinner with your mayor. And the next day it's all things SBF. So we have that conversation, we get that inspiration going with the mayor, but then we're often finding that the bureaucracy is not on board. The CEO is a bit hesitant. The other senior leaders didn't even hear anything about it, and then they find out they're suddenly a member of this program. And that's really important to get that buy-in across your whole team, and that's where Sharon and I can help out. So we're more than happy. We've done plenty of talks to senior leaders or come and visit or talk to the actual council itself about what the program's about and what the steps are. So we're here to support you and help you through this journey. So reach out if you need a hand engaging your senior leadership team and getting that head of power up. We've got a draft briefing note we've done up as well, which might help you out. So if you've had a change in leadership, pop another brief back up. Remind them that this is a commitment council has made. Here's a brief about it. We can post you out the glossies if you like to help send that up, but re-engage with them. I was talking before to a few of the members about the Accelerator. I think it's a really good opportunity. New government term. You've got 4 years basically now. So if you get in now and start the conversations right away, you've hopefully got 4 years of roughly smoother sailing. But yeah, it's a good chance to reinvigorate your council around and rally them back around the charter. Get the senior leadership involved as well. It's really important. So yeah, if you'd like to outsource to a contractor, a lot of people find that helps. Having that fresh set of eyes, the independent eyes. Doesn't have to be just the one company, but have a reach around doing that exploration of what works for you. I think a key thing that Vicky raised as well is those feedback loops. So the business roundtable, really great. We run 4. We're about to add another one. So those direct engagements with industry, actually talking to them, asking them what they want. What do you need? What do you want? And reflecting on your comments, Vicky, yeah, you can't always say yes, but closing that out quickly. So we need to stop being old school government. I encourage everyone to put your direct email address and your direct phone number on your signature block. You should be open to having a conversation with people. This is what we seem to have forgotten. We're all in public service, right? So making yourself available, you don't get flooded with people suddenly all ringing you going, oh, I've got Vicky's phone number, quick, right? It doesn't happen like that. But being open to that conversation, and that breaks down your internal barriers as well. And I saw everyone nodding around the room, that comment around the front line's really great at the customer service piece, but once you get one step removed from that, people seem to forget they're in the public service. And it's about engaging with people and having a conversation. It doesn't mean you always say yes. And once you start having those conversations regularly, trust me, it gets easier to say no when it's appropriate to do so. Well, unfortunately, we can't fit that in, but we'd really love, what else can we do? What else are you going to do? So engage them in that dialogue. It's really important. And a lot of your business community will be happy to actually do that with you. So they'll be more inclined to start doing their own events and their own activities, as we'll no doubt hear from Ipswich in a bit, once you give them the opportunity to do that. So it's about empowering your small businesses to actually open up and have that conversation with you. Something else I noticed too is the needs to be a whole of organisational kind of activity. And really needs to be led through that understanding of what your community wants. We find those roundtables help open the eyes up and getting people from across the organisation involved. While you might lead this as the economic development team, that charter is a whole of council commitment. It's not just your team. Everyone's on board. So I had a phone call once from a member who rename remain nameless, who asked, I can't get any cut through. And I said to her, you're sitting at your desk, right? And she said, yes. And I said, have you got the charter there? And heard her rifling around, and she said, yep. I said, look at page 1, down the bottom. I said, what's there? And it was the CEO and the mayor's signatures. I said, right, go photocopy that, go back and have another conversation. And I got a phone call back about 45 minutes later saying, Luke, I just did that. I put it down on their desk, and now suddenly they're happy to have a conversation with me. It was amazing. But yeah, particularly the old school departments, our compliance teams, they tend to go, well, I've just got, food safety idea or planning. Lifting the blinkers off their departments and getting them working together is really important. And we've heard some great things happening when those connections internally are re-established, particularly around streamlining and getting roadblocks out of the way. All the teams are working together around an application rather than an applicant having to, cap in hand, go to planning and then go to environmental health and then go to customer service, and then hopefully ECDev's on the side trying to battle internally all those departments. But that's what you'll hear from Ken the Savi about. How do we build those connections internally? So some great feedback. The biggest thing I took away from that, though, is serving the community. So we're here to do that, and opening the eyes of your colleagues up to what they're there to actually do is really key. So any other questions for Vicky before I let her off the hook? No? She's begging me to let her off the hook. Thanks, Vicky. Appreciate it. And thanks for the insights and the honesty. So our next speaker is Arna from Livingstone Shire Council. So for those who don't know, Livingstone is quite new to the program, and the nice coastline area east of Rocky. It's a beautiful neck of the woods, and still remember the signing event fondly in Livingstone. Really great engagement with across the community at a really great little small business. So Arna, would you like to come up and share your experience?
Thank you, Luke. I feel like between Vicky and Luke, I don't have much more to say. You stole some of my points, Luke. So, so as Luke said, we are located, we're about 40 kilometres northeast of Rockhampton, and we are 600 kilometres north of Brisbane. Our LGA covers just over 11,000 square kilometres. I thought I'd just provide the little snapshot here purely because a lot of people haven't been to Livingstone. It is a very beautiful part of the world. That's okay. I'll just have a latte. So basically, we all feel in Livingstone that our secret's out. We've experienced significant growth over recent years, and it's now known as a very desirable place to live, work and play. We obviously have, with the increased growth, it does generate economic activity, and in turn that drives demand for products, services and community amenities. But as we're all aware, this does in turn have its advantages and disadvantages for small businesses. Like the majority of regional towns, our small businesses in Livingstone are the backbone of our local economy, and as such we are committed to supporting the business community and ensuring that their operating environment is conducive to growth and longevity. So as Luke mentioned, we did join the Small Business Friendly program a year ago. And I actually wasn't at that signing. I had parental commitments, but by everything I heard, it was a great evening. At the business that it was held at, we actually just had another event last week for Small Business Month. I sort of thought, why not? It's a year on, let's do it again. And again, we had a great evening, but we are still very much in our infancy with the small business friendly journey. And I feel like I looked at Vicky's presentation and I did think, oh my gosh, they've done all these amazing things. What have we done? And then I thought, well, you know what, I'm not going to really talk about what we've done. I'm going to talk about challenges that we've experienced. So I probably could have come up with quite a number of challenges, but for the purposes of a short presentation, I've pulled out 3. that I feel are, I suppose, very much day-to-day challenges of putting together an accelerator and implementing the actions from that. I also think that through participation with the small business roundtables, it's very clear that every council is going to experience challenges, but they're probably never going to always be the same, to varying degrees. So basically for me, I've chosen to look at limited resources, understanding our local business needs, engagement and participation. And for that one, it's internal and external engagement and participation across the organisation. So with limited resources, it's no secret that councils often have limited financial and human resources to dedicate to our economic development initiatives. At Livingstone, like a lot of councils, we are a very small team. Until recently, we haven't been a consistently full team for a few years. So this does impact the quality and breadth of services we can offer, as well as our capacity to deliver. We have to balance our competing priorities to ensure our actions are realistic and achievable. So in the short term, this has really seen us focus on things that we are currently doing, identifying that, we are doing them. How can we then improve on them, build on them to make them better? And also thinking about things that you can do with little or no funds, because sometimes those things can go a really long way. So just as example for us, for Small Business Month, we sort of thought, well, what can we do? So we just decided to hold drop-in sessions one day each week, each morning, in conjunction with the chamber. We had different members across our organisation at each session, someone from development, someone from our health department, just basically creating an opportunity for our business community to come and say hi and to meet us. So in that respect, talking about the old school, I feel like there's old school and then there's the old school where there were no emails and you had to go and speak to people face to face because that was the only way that you were going to be able to engage with them. So for us, that grassroots approach is where it's at. With Livingstone, I feel like we've allocated time to visit our small businesses, just turn up and say hi. So this is working on building our connections. We just want to say we're here, we're available, we support you, what's happening in your world. So this isn't a big shiny project. It's not something we can go, here, look what we've done. But it's basically a start. And in our small community, people respond to that. People respond to the fact that you're taking time to just go and say hi. It's about building face-to-face relationships with those stakeholders. So the message, I suppose, is don't discount those small gestures, those small actions. I think for a lot of people, it's really important. If they can't come to you, go to them. They're busy. So our next one, understanding our local business needs. I think to succeed in being small business friendly, this is one of the most powerful tools that a council can have, is to understand the needs. Available data is useful available data can be hard to come by. So it does make it challenging to have a comprehensive understanding of the business landscape and its needs. Accurate assessment is also challenging. They vary significantly based on industry, location, and demographics, and there's certainly no one size fits all. You're never going to get all the answers from one survey or one study. Local business needs, they're not static. They're constantly evolving in response to economic, social, and technological changes. So keeping pace and adapting policies and support services accordingly is not always easy. It's important to maintain a flexible and adaptive approach, though. So anything that you're doing, it needs to be, I suppose, able to be tailored to meet what's happening at the time. Just think of, I suppose, responses to natural disasters or COVID-19. How quickly did local governments, state governments, federal governments have to jump on board, tailor things that they already had in place for that specific circumstance? Typically, local areas also have a diverse mix of businesses. So they range from small family-owned enterprises to large corporations, each having unique requirements. So rather than treating businesses uniformly, segmented targeting can be utilised based on the characteristics such as size, industry and location. In Livingstone, for example, we have found that we struggle to connect with businesses that are operating in the area of trade services, home-based online businesses, one person show who's just operating from their desk at home. This is definitely something that we've identified that we want to work towards so we can engage with these people more. But that being said, I feel like over the last few months of committing to more engagement opportunities, turning up to networking events, I've probably met more home-based businesses in the last couple of months than I've ever met before. So for them, those opportunities are incredibly important because they are often the only opportunities they get to network with fellow home business owners, things like that. Back to the trade services, these are people that are operating early in the morning. They'll often be finished by 3 o'clock. They don't want to be doing anything in the afternoon. So what can you do? A trade breakfast, that's something they could potentially come to. It's not taking a huge chunk out of their day. So next one, internal engagement and participation. Vicky obviously looked at this quite in depth, and we have had a similar situation. Getting people on board, it's probably been the most challenging challenge that we've had. In the beginning, I think I felt like, I didn't want to add to people's workloads. Is this something that economic development should be handling all on their own? Don't know why I thought that, because there's just no way that you're going to achieve being small business friendly with that attitude. It's just not an option. So in completing the blind spot assessment, we didn't have an external consultant come in, but on our own, we did arrange catch-ups with members of different teams across the organisation, not in management positions. I consciously did that. I actually really wanted to just get the feel of the people who were sort of essentially on the ground, who were the ones having those face-to-face conversations with the business owners, to see what their take was on our small business friendly, how we sat, at that time. So I did send the charter to all of those people prior to meeting with them. And I also did say, this is a whole of organisation commitment. This is something we are obligated to do. And to be perfectly honest, I was pleasantly surprised that when I did sit down and speak with my colleagues, they were really on board and they were really keen to find out what we were doing, what our objectives were, what our visions were for that space. And I think a lot of that comes back to the fact that we are a small town. So there's definitely a huge amount of passion and commitment to our community. That's just the way we operate. So people were sort of, yes, this sounds great. How can we help more? Oh, can we come to that? But, so it just led to more corridor conversations, as I like to call them. I feel like I'm stopping a lot more. My boss probably thinks, where is she? But I'm actually having really great conversations sometimes with people. And I think it's led to a mutual respect and understanding of what we are doing across the different departments, but it's also making connections for us. So we are all working towards a common goal as far as, small business friendly incentives go. Now, my next one is the engagement and participation that's external to the organisation. So I think there's plenty of reasons why it's hard to get engagement and participation from the business community. They're often operating in a headspace that's driven by their own perceived priorities. So for them, physically working in the business is their priority. Maintaining their daily operations at any cost is their priority. Just getting through each day for some of them is their one priority. So combating this it does require proactive measures. You really do have to foster collaboration, communication, and community involvement because you need to communicate the message that working on the business is also a really huge priority. That being said, probably what is the most powerful factor is actually getting them to see that it's relevant and it's going to be beneficial, because if they don't see any relevance to them, they're going to have no interest whatsoever. For us, there seems to be key stakeholders from our business community that do come to networking events, that do engage with us. I wouldn't say regularly, but more regularly than others. Those are the ones that you need to make time for, because they are the ones that have already identified that, there's benefit in this relationship. And then they go and talk to their other fellow business owners. So word gets around. They've also identified the fact that there is more power in numbers. So at our event last week, we had 3 small business owners speak, all from different backgrounds, but each one of them said, what we have is a great small business community in Livingstone, and you must reach out, you must network, you must connect, because there is the power there, So it was really nice to hear that they had identified that themselves, and it does make you think, oh, this is worth it, So again, communication and outreach can act as powerful tools. We use numerous channels to do this. We have a social media brand which sort of stands separate to our Livingstone Shire Council Facebook, and it's purely a way that we can communicate our economic development initiatives, events, things like that. We also send out our monthly e-bulletin, and we share our information. We're not precious about, we're not trying to be competitive. We talk to our chamber members and the committee. We keep that dialogue open and catch up often, so that we're across, what everyone's doing. So we're all from the outset looking like we are working together. None of us are working alone. The other thing I think too, it's really important to provide regular opportunities for the business community to have their offer their feedback and offer their input. One of the first things we did was launching a small business friendly survey. It's still live. It's been going since about February, I think. And I'll be honest, it's not that we had great responses, but we had responses. And the information was helpful. We've left it open because I sort of feel like, well, why close it off? It can be an ongoing thing. 6 months down the track, they may give different answers. Who knows? As I mentioned earlier, we've got to keep up with that face-to-face engagement. We might have access to online data analytic tools. That's great, but that frontline approach is really essential. I think too, sharing experiences across councils as well. And that's one thing I've found really helpful since we've been part of the program. Everyone, I recognise faces, from doing the round tables, but whenever I've reached out to someone, everyone's so generous in sharing their experiences and just talking. And I can't believe how much you can get from a 20-minute chat. Sometimes I'll just, like Luke was saying about the lady that went and spoke to the CEO and the mayor, a quick chat, you can come out of it going, yes, I've had a little win. This one, I don't know what's happened to my S up there. Anyway, it's meant to be on the end. I can spell. So I basically just called this the Stairway to Success. They're not in any particular order. There was no never-ending staircase, because I don't think it's a journey that has a start and a finish. They also are no more or less important than the other, and they all have to work together as part of that bigger picture approach. I feel like there's many other considerations, but these for me so far are the ones that have really stood out. And I think it's certainly not a tick and flick exercise. It's not something that, I mean, to be honest, when we first started, I probably thought, right, Accelerator, blind spot assessment, tick, tick, tick. This is not working, Sharon. Yeah, so I think accepting that and that it's not going to be done at any particular time, it's going to evolve and continue. And I think too, it is a work in progress, whether it's something that you're working on or you leave and you go to another role and someone steps into your role. You want to be able to leave something for them to pick up and run with that, because that provides the consistency for the program, also for our business community. And I think also you have to celebrate your achievements. So it doesn't matter how big or small they are. Even if you suddenly have a moment where you go, well, that didn't work, it's still an achievement because you've learnt that that's not going to work. That does. Or meeting a business owner for the first time and having a really great conversation, to me, is an achievement. My small responses to my survey is an achievement. I didn't get 0 responses, I got responses. Yeah, so at the end of the day, I think everything matters. And the more understanding, the more conversations that we can have, whether it's internal, external, between ourselves, it helps us create a more understanding and supportive environment for our business owners. Yeah, so that's all. And I would especially like to thank Sharon, because I have called her numerous times and sent her emails, and I've really appreciated your support, Sharon. There any questions at all?
You talked about the home-based businesses and you said you've met with them and done.
Yeah.
What sort of engagement methods have you done to tap into that home-based market?
I think we have quite a active creative community, and a lot of those artists are on, you know, one person show. They are trying really hard to make a living out of their art. One thing we did start is it's called a Capricorn Coast Creative Series on our Instagram page. And every Wednesday I'll feature one of our local creatives, whether that's an artist, a musician, you know, anything. We've got a guy who does stonework in Emu Park. You know, to me, that's all of those are creative. They're trying to make a living out of that. And I sort of promoted it a few weeks out, and I was surprised by the responses. I had a lot of them contact me and say, can you share me? Can you feature me? And it's funny now that I have actually met a lot of them face to face, because they do seem to be the ones that come to networking events. It's really nice to then have a conversation with them, and they're so incredibly grateful. And that being said, it's funny too how supportive they are of each other. So it's sort of like a snowball. I'll feature them, they'll share it, their friends share it, other artists share it, and then it's just sort of on pages all around our community. So that's been a really nice way of being able to engage with them. And yeah, that's probably been the main way. The other way too is when we have had opportunities for placemaking and public art projects. That's been another great way that we've been able to sort of put a call out and be able to meet with our artists and get them involved. Some of them have then gone on to, you know, get some really great commissions after doing a public mural in Livingstone. And yeah. Oh, I don't know. We're so yeah, I've been in the economic development team for coming up to 4 years now. The first few years of that, I was in the role as project support officer. Last year, when Livingstone signed the charter, I was still in that role. The lady in my role left not long after the signing, and that space did sit empty for quite a few months, just while recruitment was taking place. And they ended up with me. So I feel like I really didn't get to sink my teeth into it probably until the start of this year, if I'm being honest. Everyone knows leading up to Christmas, things are kind of crazy, and I was freaking out about it, feeling like I hadn't sent anything to Sharon. But I feel like now I've had to really pull it back, and I'm not going to be able to deliver, as I said, anything big and shiny straight away, but it's the little things that I'm trying to focus on, and I'll build from that. And I think, like most of you, with the change of, mayor, change of councillors, that's another, I won't say hurdle because it hasn't started yet. It might be easy. Just having to start that engagement process with them again and getting them on board. At the moment, they've been quite busy. Things have sort of changed a little bit. Yeah, so that's probably my next 6 months. That will be really focusing on looking at what we will be doing as the whole organisation. Yeah.
Because you've got another person. You think that because
no, we've sort of had a few changes in just the structure. So we'll be losing someone. They won't be renewed. So then it's sort of created an opportunity for a second economic development officer to come in. So we're sort of on that same level. But we work together very closely, but the small business area is mine predominantly. Suzette, she has, well, I guess it ties in because she's really been working hard in the agritourism space, and that is also small business. So that's why we do work together closely. I'm probably focusing on those bricks and mortar stores, those smaller online businesses. She's focusing on those small producers, looking at, diversifying. So in that sense, we definitely work really well together. She's now traveling around in a caravan, having a great time on long service leave. But yeah, I think we're both on the same page. We both, our thought processes are very much aligned. So there's 2 of us. We're very, very much supported by our boss, which is fantastic. We do have big ideas. I'm sure sometimes she sort of goes, whoa, just keep it simple. But we also are able to have a bit of a long-term approach as well, the way we think. We're not thinking, what can we achieve just in the next 3 months or year? We are thinking, well, what's Livingstone going to look like in 10 years? We need to be able to set ourselves up to cope with that additional growth and also those changing needs for the business community, because as I said, they're constantly evolving, and just sort of having the foresight to think ahead.
I've got one more comment. Just from my observation, I think why you've been successful is because you've gotten away from your desk and you put your boots on the ground and out, whether that's internally within the organisation, but also outside of the office.
Yeah, so, and it's funny because that's what I enjoy the most as well. And I'm probably not someone who generally likes to go, hi, my name's Arna and let's chat. But I get over that because I have to. But then I find it really rewarding as well. And it's funny, I'm with my kids around town and they go, oh, can you stop talking to me? You know all these people? And I'm going, no, Dad. They're going, yes, you're talking to everyone. And that to me is a sign of success, I suppose. I'm not trying to sell them anything. I'm purely just trying to build a relationship with them so that we do know each other when we walk down the street. And they do know that they can call me directly. I'm very open to, and I have great conversations, when they do we have a chat.
Sorry, I got one more.
Sorry.
No, but what that caused, you got so much information. That was a challenge for you as well, wasn't it?
Sorry, say that again.
Challenge was that you got so much.
Oh, yes. So yeah,
when you didn't speak a lot to people.
When I would sit down with my colleagues and then it's conversations, so it's all sort of that anecdotal information as well. I did feel overloaded, and I wasn't even sure what to do with it. So I had to sort of get my head in it and really think, okay, how am I going to lay this out so I can refer back to it So yeah, had to put it all in a table, did send it to Shire and said, can you look at this? And that's still a work in progress. I'm not finished. There's still a lot of conversations that I need to have. But again, that's where I sort of said, okay, this isn't going to be a short-term activity. This is going to take time, and I want to do it well. I don't want to just sort of sign it off and go, that's it, I'm done. I want it to have meaning. Yeah. Yeah.
Initiatives.
Yep.
What is the name?
Yeah, so that's called Discover Capricorn Coast.
Yeah.
So at the moment we have Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. We're also in the process of building a new website for Discover Capricorn Coast, which will just sit next to Livingstone Shire Council. We'll just have a link on our page. And I suppose the need for that came out of the fact that Livingstone Shire Council's page posts everything from library opening hours to rates notices. We wanted to have something where we could just focus on what we were trying to do. And the other thing is we can't be seen to be focusing on one business or promoting just one business as council. Whereas with Discover, we can. So we have our small business Saturday series. So every Saturday I give a shout out to one of our small businesses and just do a little write up on them. And it's basically just a way that we can acknowledge and celebrate our small businesses, which is, it's a small gesture, but it is part of our of the charter for small business friendly. So that's just a small thing we do. It's
still council, so council staff are still.
So that's me. Yeah.
Did you workshop that with council? Like, how did you
get? So I can't.
Yes.
I can't take credit for. So the lady that was in my role before me, she sort of really drove that. I worked on it with her, but she was definitely driving that. Took it to our management. Took it to council. I think it was more about convincing them that there was merit in it. And we also had to say, this isn't going to cost you anything. We can handle this in-house. Our current staff can manage this ourselves. And that was what got it over the line, I suppose. We haven't invested any money in it. I mean, you can start a Facebook account for free. It's not that hard. The only thing we've done is we do have our own logo. We recently got our own banner. And it is gaining momentum slowly but surely. And when I'm talking to people, I say, do you follow us? Make sure you do. Oh, you're doing that. So that again is another conversation piece.
Do you have like an advisory group or anything because it sounds like it's tourism as well as.
So we don't actually handle, our RTO is Capricorn Enterprise. So they basically do Livingstone out to Central Highlands, down to Gladstone, Bundaberg. So they're our tourism body. So what we do, even though it has that tourism-y element, if you look at it, it's not, come here for your next holiday. We leave that to Capricorn Enterprise. That's what we, I guess, engage them to do.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I'm quite clear on what I post on Facebook is very different to what I'll post on Instagram. So Facebook is much more, that's where I do my small business Saturday series. Instagram is where I do the Capricorn Coast Creative series, because that's just how Instagram works. People want to see pretty pictures on Instagram. They don't necessarily need to hear about workshops and training opportunities on Instagram. Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Can't really remember what you're asking. It's their fault for asking them questions.
Thanks, Arna. That's exactly what we're here to do today, is to have a conversation, right? Thank you very much. Just, I guess, my 5 minutes worth, some reflections on that. I think, activities don't need to be costly to be effective and to run them. So some of the things we hear from across all our members is it's often those low cost, quick we had an idea kind of activities that are actually sometimes the most engaging and the most beneficial, because they're the ones where they're genuinely organic, right? They just kick off and something happens or someone just asks a question and off we go down this path we didn't even see before. So yeah, you don't have to have this big planned event or this massive program of effort. It can be just a little quick idea. An anecdote on that point, the Commissioner and I were visiting one of our members and we're walking around just the Main Street area because we didn't have a huge amount of time, literally just walking in small businesses, trying to pick a variety of different small businesses, not just the classic kind of perception of small business as retail and hospitality. And as we walked around, every business we walked into, interestingly, they were all run by entrepreneurial women. And one business owner, her husband was there. He's the local plumber as well. And he was just there on his lunch break. But every single one of these small business owners said to us, you know, it'd be really great if we just had this networking, you know, if we could talk to other small businesses. We're like, okay. And the council, one of the council team was with us. And this person remarked that they learned more in the last hour than they had in the last few years. I'm like, well, that's, you know, get up. Walk outside the council office. Don't sit behind your computer all day. Go and have a conversation with people. And you'll find that is immeasurably of great value to council because you're actually creating those relationships. They open doors. You find champions within your communities, and that's gold, right? We found out after the fact that this community had a chamber that the same guy had been the president of for a long, long time, and they hadn't had a meeting for like 20 or 30 years or something. But anyway, they're now looking to reinvigorate that and get that back up and running. So you have that flux with small businesses. Unfortunately, small businesses aren't always sold off to a young entrepreneurial person who wants to take on that business because they can't afford it. So they often stand up a new business that's probably the same, and that business fades out. That's just the cycle sometimes. That is small business. But trying to engage that next gen and get them involved and get them linked into the community. And I think that's a key point I picked up on there that we've actually identified to ourselves. So you might have seen our mindset report was launched just last week by the Commissioner, and we engaged Central Queensland Uni to actually look at the mindset of Queensland small business owners across the business life cycle. One of the key findings there, which links to Arna's point, was trusted networks. So we found, above all else, small businesses seek their information from trusted networks. I think government was like number 8 on the list of the questions that CQU asked, but trusted networks came through. So family, friends, and other business owners, that's where they're getting their information. So, you know, we like to think, oh, we're government, they're going to come to us. No, we're way down here. So if we're not engaging with them and we're not helping them, you know, make those linkages, we're missing an opportunity there to get involved in that network. Or to support that network, not to try and take it over, but how do we actually enable them to have those meetings? You know, Joel from Isaac, we're going to talk about his experience in a minute, but they've just reinvigorated a network and joined together a whole heap of their smaller networks into one larger network. So that Isaac Chamber of Commerce that council has helped the business community to work through and create. Hopefully that will be a good engagement point for Isaac moving forward. But it's about supporting that rather than trying to do it yourself or trying to replace it. Yeah, I heard from you talking about there that understanding the needs of the small business community is really key. So it's not just about data, it's about conversations. We constantly get asked in our office, well, what's the data? Well, newsflash, qualitative data is data. It's just not a number. And we all know our political masters like a number because it's great and it's easy to digest and understand. But it's really important to have those qualitative pieces of data as well, because that's often the emotional connection to the small business, not just the widget on a page. That's what our roundtables are all about, is what's the feeling of small business on the ground right now? And that ebbs and flows, as we all understand. So understanding that data is not just quantitative is really important. And creating those opportunities to engage. So the hubs, drop-in centres. We know Redlands is doing some drop-in centres at the moment as well. I think they might be here tomorrow. We're here today? Yeah, sorry, I'm looking right in front of you. Sorry, Redlands. So shameless plug. So yeah, your drop-in centres, same thing. So same idea. It's about creating opportunities for small business to actually connect directly with the people who are making the decisions, and they're not the frontline people, but that gets those people out from behind their desk and realising that there are businesses, human beings, on the other end of their decisions. So little things we always encourage councils is to add your name and your email address to your signature block. Simple change you can make internally, improves the accountability of your own staff in terms of what they're sending out to the community, but makes that that accessibility barrier gets removed by doing that. So open and honest engagement is really, really important. I'll finish off with, I think the key point I saw there is that, the Accelerator and the whole program it's a journey. There's no end point. This is a continuous. It's about being more small business friendly. You're not going to magically one day, reach, this nice kind of unicorn state where everything's just perfect. And then you'll lose a staff member or you'll lose a champion in the community and you'll have to start again, or you lose a mayor or a CEO and you have to start the conversations all over again. So really important that if you accept and understand this is a continuum and you just keep building those frameworks that support what you're doing, that's really gold. So I think in that regard, the SBF Charter and the Accelerator, that's just a pillar of your broader economic development strategy. So Arna talked about the long-term future view. And I know Morton does it as well. But the way that you engage with your community, you have that economic development strategy. And then this stuff is one of those pillars. Small businesses are one part of your broader economic development strategy, which is about attraction. It's about people in your community. It's about cost of living and housing and those things. But making this and using the Accelerator to help you build one of those pillars is gold. So hopefully that's provided you a little bit more info about the Accelerator and some of the council members have been doing to try and accelerate their small business friendly activities. I do want to ask, SBF roundtable style, I want to quickly skim around the room and is there any reflections anyone's got around your experiences trying to drive accelerating your small business friendly activities, whether you're doing the Accelerator proper or just generally? I'll auction style it, going once, or I'll start picking people. Oh, I'm volunteer.
And their needs, and so you can help support the best.
Yeah, and it's really different. And we'll often bump into farmers and we'll say, what are you? And they'll say, oh, I'm a farmer. And we'll say, yeah, you're a small business owner. And you go, no, I'm a farmer. And tradies are the same. So yeah, tapping into those, and that's where you've got to look at the networks, right? Well, where are those businesses? What are we as a community? We know every local government area has different kind of volumes of different types of businesses. So understanding, well, we've got a high amount of farms in our community. So how do we tap into the agribusiness network? Where do they meet? Yeah, cool. Thanks, Ipswich.
Creating those relationships, but sometimes that's challenging, sort of getting the support or having the management or sort of understanding why we're investing that time and in those sessions.
Yeah, and use those as opportunities to grab testimonials, if you like, of a sort, right? It doesn't have to be on a socials page. Thank you very much, Naomi. But it's about, here's some feedback we got, good, bad, or indifferent, and creating that openness to have that conversation internally. That's what the Accelerator is trying to do. The blind spot assessment, we encourage everyone to do that assessment at least 4 layers. And all the mayors we've been speaking to lately, we've said, yourselves and your councillors should do the blind spot assessment. You should then do it with your executive leadership team, so the CEO, your divisional heads, branch managers, whatever they're called in your organisation, your business community, and your doers, the people on the front line, like Arna mentioned. So if you get those 4 different kind of blind spots done, overlay them. Where they line up, that's your quick wins, whether they're fast or long projects, but they're the stuff everyone agrees upon. So they're things you can build some collateral, some advantage around by getting those things everyone agrees on first. And then there'll be the really quick wins. So what's simple and easy? Well, this group said that. cool, we'll grab one of those, we'll grab one from over here. And then you're building that trust about the program too, and the veracity of what we're trying to achieve. Cool. Anyone else? It's too early on Tuesday morning. Yep.
Yeah, Brent from Mackay. How's everybody going? The bit that really resonated with me was with regard to internal stakeholders.
Yep.
We've had a lot of churn in our team, in the economic development team and in the planning team. And with people going on maternity leave and coming back and people getting elected as councillors, for God's sake. But the main thing is that keep that communication going. It's easy to give up, but I've had a whole bunch of what I call light bulb moments where we're working with the planners and they're looking at the book saying, no, we can't do that. But then they get what we're trying to achieve, and it's like a light bulb moment, I call it. And it's fantastic when we're all working together. Yeah, and that's an amazing reflection. You'll hear more about that. So listening closely for Len Nasavi with the streamlining and Townsville's experience tomorrow. But yeah, it was exactly that kind of experience of, but we've got the town plan, we have to stick to that. Well, change it, make it better. But 9 times out of 10, what we hear is it's not, it's really easy to kind of hang our hat on, or the law says, or the legislation says. I guarantee you, if you go back and look right now, 80% of the roadblocks or more in your organisations are local policies and practices. They're things you're doing and they're no different for the Queensland government, for us in our office. Most of the roadblocks are created by the bureaucracy itself, and they can be resolved by the bureaucracy. So we can tidy a lot of that up, do a bit of housekeeping ourselves. Why do we ask 5 times over for one business owner to give them all the same information? Every form is different, but we require one for, cafe, for example. They need a food business license application. Environmental health will write this big long form. They got to get a material change of use before that. Town planning will write a big long form. And, most of that's the same information. And if everyone sat around the table and the healthy said right at the start, well, they're going to need an exhaust fan, which needs an outlet point, which you need to put on that side of the building, because then the town planner says you can't put it on that side of the building, because then we get a noise complaint, after the fact. So getting those teams collaborating and working together, get the roadblocks out of the way. Concierges, a lot of councils are having a crack at that now. Even if ECDEV's the fallback concierge by default, it's a great way to try and iron out some of those roadblocks. But building that internal kind of connectivity is really key to doing that, right? You've got to have the internal relationships to help drive it. Yeah, great point, Brent. Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right, so I'm going to be Joel for a little while, just quickly. Joel sends his apologies, but whizzing through Joel's slide. Joel sends his apologies, but as we said, he's busy launching their new chamber at the moment, so he wasn't able to join us in person. He was going to try to join us online, but his priorities have jumped in front of that for us today. But Isaac's been working through that, the same process. So going through our Accelerator, trying to see what they can do to actually improve how they're running the small business friendly program. So a bit about Isaac there. So 58,000 plus square kilometres, 22,500 people in the area, and a big itinerant population too, 13,000. So obviously a lot of mines in the Isaac Shire. So we know they do have that itinerant population. But that's pretty huge, right? That's almost half of their more than half of their population is in and out, not always there. So hopefully they're spending a little bit of money and not just getting on a plane and going to a mine camp, but over 2,000 registered businesses there. As you can see, a lot of agriculture. And interestingly for Isaac, which you'd think, it's probably primarily ag, but a lot of construction, a lot of automotive and machinery businesses associated with the mines, right? So a lot of that construction work happening in and around the mine sites as well. But a lot of professional and technical services in that number too, which is interesting. But look at the annual turnover from their businesses, $14.5 billion, pretty significant. So, there you go, 32 billion economic imprint on the other side, but the project's 14.5 billion. So lots of money being spent in Isaac, but really interesting, particularly that itinerant kind of population. So how do you build
a viable small business community when you've got a lot of people that are in and out, earning money in the Shire, but not necessarily contributing that back to the Shire. Yeah, so yeah, some interesting stats. So some of the key highlights that Joel's been experiencing as he's gone through. So like Arna and Vicky both said, while it looks nice on a diagram as a sequential process, the accelerator can be rolled out however it fits your kind of needs. And there'll be ebbs and flows. There'll be, pathways forward and then steps back as you go along that journey. But it's about, the idea is to create a plan, whether it's an annual plan or for a couple of years, that's fine. We're trying to encourage people to think of it like an annual plan, and that's forms part of your economic development strategy then. And it's what you can do over the next little while that you're working on. So some of the things Joel's been working on is updating the council website, trying to create a little bit of a navigator for small businesses, which is really interesting about trying to help that kind of concierge concept, doing that online. So they're working on that. Looking how they can actually improve their legislative framework. So while I said, it's mostly policies and practices, if your framework underpinning that, your local laws are complex and old school, it's a good opportunity to kind of clean up a bit. So I know, Morton, you went through your local law review. So if you want some feedback on that, I'm sure Grant would be happy to talk about their process. I think you did everything, didn't you? The whole lot. Yeah, too much. But how did you find the community engagement in that?
The issues were more around the internal engagement. All right, the community actually know what's going on.
Yep.
Right, and did it over a full year, and it was painful because people felt jobs were threatened by simplifying things, and self-assessment means what do I get to do if they're self-assessable, and we had all those kind of challenges. So they were the main things.
Yeah, excellent. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow, interestingly. It's a key point though. So digitisation is the whole point of tomorrow. The conference is we're talking about digitisation. It doesn't mean less people. It doesn't mean less time. What it actually means is more time for you to get out from behind your desk and do the human bit, which is the most important bit. So digital AI tech, that is actually leverage for us to get out and go and do the human facing stuff, which is the gold. It gets rid of the administrivia and the minutiae. We can leverage tech and digital to help us, have more time to have a conversation and to build relationships. So yeah, really important. But yeah, simplifying local laws, big challenge, and a lot of resistance always internally. So championing businesses. So they're looking at that regional business leadership alliance. So a bit of a round table of a sort, looking to actually do some kind of state of the industry reporting as well, identifying skill gaps. So working to identify what local businesses need as, listening to what their needs are, don't just assume. Supporting stronger business investment. So they do a buy local program. Isaac's done that for a while. They were some of the early conversations we had around our roundtable, around the buy local cards. So we've had a lot of councils now take those on. We know Ballon did a nice little review of all the different types of cards that we shared around the place. So nice way to have that reinvestment back in their community. I think Joel was trying to do a lot of that with the mining companies as well, to get them to give those out as awards to staff, and you can only spend that money locally. So nice little way to try and keep some of that mining money in the community. Spending at local SMEs, talked about that, the procurement process as well, tender opportunities, connecting with the Queensland Australian Government capability and capacity building programs. So Australian Government runs a lot of good programs, but so does Queensland Government, particularly our non-government organisations. So TIQ's got a lot of support programs if anyone's interested in those investment opportunities or external trade opportunities, so exporting. A really strong organisation there with a lot of connections and a lot of money to be able to promote Queensland businesses. And I think that's a key thing Arna was talking about too, that you might have missed, is the regional tourism organisations, your tourism and business associations. They're all open for you to tap into. So we can tend to think about business just as the economic development type thing, state development, economic development. But, broadening your view to all small businesses. How do we tap into Queensland Farmers Federation? How do we tap into, the local mining groups as well? So broadening your church, if you like, but getting TIQ involved, see what the opportunities are for your particular neck of the woods. I know Douglas Shire, you did your overseas investor promo program. How did that go for you? Yeah, and investment across layers too. So we know Banana did their green energy conference workshop of a sort, and they got the big green energy companies to come and actually talk to the small businesses and tried to make connections there. A bit of a local buy type arrangement, and got a few contracts out of that on the day. But good to engage all levels. Yeah, great. And you'll hear from TIQ this afternoon about the opportunities that are coming. So it's about looking at what we've got now, but what's also around the corner, and where do we sit as a local government? How can we actually maybe tap into some of those opportunities? So lots of things happening in that investment space, and then accelerating business innovation. So focusing on that continuous kind of innovation and evolution of businesses. Some digital training opportunities as well, and linking in with the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So those other opportunities that are free and available. We know hands down that businesses, particularly small business, are so busy working in the business they don't have time to work on it. So it's how do we enable those quick and easy engagements for time poor small business owners. So leveraging a lot of those opportunities. The EcoBiz program run by BCQ, Business Chamber Queensland now. We've got our industry workforce advisors available at the moment as well. So lots of opportunities there to kind of tap into. So leverage those, connect your small businesses with them, and have the conversations about what's available. But that requires you to get out there and talk to people, whether on socials or in person. Isaac's been working through our accelerator. Everything that Vicky and Arna talked about, it's that having that high level commitment, working through all the different layers to try and get people involved, from policymakers to councillors to the small business community. So those layers are really important. Some of the key challenges with that self-assessment process, understanding the local needs and celebrating the wins, like Arna was saying. Even if it's a little win, push it up the chain, let someone know. Even if it's in the hallway where you bump into the mayor. Oh, I just caught up with Bill's sandals today. He's doing great at the moment. I tried to do something different. I always talk about Steve waxing surfboards. So Bill's sandals. There you go. Some of the key things, a little bit of a heat map there of some of the key words. So attraction of staff is obviously a big challenge for Isaac, as I'm sure it is for all of you. Affordable housing, really, really important. Buying local. Access to skilled labour, particularly where you've got a lot of mining companies stealing a lot of that labour. Many of the businesses we talked to, Commissioner and I were recently down the coast a little. What we heard from small businesses is they're sick of being the training ground for mining companies. And we said, well, okay, how do you turn that to your advantage? That's not going to change, right? We're not going to bring in a law tomorrow that say you cannot hire someone new. So how do you leverage that as a small business? So we talked to them about, well, can they start doing some training and actually then tap into more of the training dollars that are available? And there's lots of money in training at the moment, as we know. But how can they tap into that? They're always having apprentices because they always lose their staff to mining. So how do they actually get more support to run those traineeships and those apprenticeships? So that was an eye-opener for them. We connected them with some of the DESBIT teams to go and have more of those conversations. So yeah, so seems to be very similar challenges when trying to roll out that accelerator. But that's what this is about. It's having those tough conversations to get the ball rolling. And I think that's it. I can't take questions for Joel. I can crystal ball gaze as much as I can for you. But any feedback, any thoughts before we wrap up? Coffee time, holding everyone back from coffee. All right, cool. So what we'll do is we'll wrap up there then for our productivity workshop. Thanks for joining us. For those online, we'll see you at 10:45, hopefully, for our placemaking workshop. We'll be hearing from Ipswich City Council about their experiences and from Renew Australia as well about some opportunities we've got coming up for you. So for those in the room, please help yourselves to morning tea and make those all important phone calls, and we'll see you in a little bit.